so happy to have you guys here with me today to talk about the fiber arts. For me, that mainly entails knitting, crochet. I am a beginner spinner, and occasionally I like to talk about some of my yarn dyeing experiments and things. So actually I'll be covering all of those today. So if you would like to find me on social media, I am at Zoe Nichols on Instagram and Ravelry, and you can find my hand-dyed yarn on Etsy under Felicity Yarn Studio. So again, a big thank you guys for joining me today. It is a little bit dreary and cold and rainy out today, so the lighting isn't the greatest. Hopefully it doesn't look too terrible in here. I've got every single light that I can turn on right now. But I wanted to sit down and podcast before the weekend because I've got a little bit of a vlog trip planned for the weekend. So one little bit of admin up front, my sister and I, who is Naomi, she is the yarn curator. She has a little podcast as well. We are running a knit along. It is the New Year Old Stash Cow. So we are trying to knit from our stash for as long as possible this year without spending, with a few exceptions of, you know, if you need something to complete a project, and for me personally, spinning fiber is not involved in that. But yeah, just trying to clear out some whips, knit from stash, be a little bit intentional. But if you would like to enter that, there's a hashtag for Instagram, and we have started a joint Ravelry group as well. And there is a link to that down below in the description box. And that's where you'll find all of the show notes for today. Why don't we start with what I am wearing today? And this is my Sunset Highway. That's a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. I'm sure everybody has seen this by now. And I knit mine about 2 years ago. Believe it or not, I didn't love this pattern when it was first out and all of the rage. Naomi actually had to convince me to knit one with her when she was making hers. So I made mine with this like cream off-white color with speckles. This is by Junk Yarn. The colorway is Ray. And then the like tan beigey color is Hedgehog Fibers in the Artifact colorway. The coral kind of neon-y color, that is by Kindred Red, and I believe the colorway is Endless Summer. And then the main body color, which is this lovely like seafoam green with some speckles on it, that is also by Junk Yarn, and that is the Beatrix colorway, I believe. So after, you know, 2 years worth of wear, it does have a few pills and things. I do need to do a little bit of maintenance on it, but other than that, it has held up really well. I do wear this frequently, and it's actually kind of one of the first garments that I knit, you know, with the intention of working pieces into my wardrobe, and kind of moving away from more commercial clothing. And it really fits. It's one of my best fitting sweaters so far. All right, so let's get started with some knitting. And I do have one finished object. And if you've been watching the channel, you may have noticed I did a little short video, a little FO feature where I talked about my Sorrel sweater. So here she is. I'll just kind of run through really quickly. I won't rehash all of the details like I did in the previous video, but this is the Sorrel. It is by Wool and Pine, and it has this lovely kind of dip stitch pattern, or not kind of, it is a dip stitch, but this lovely dip stitch pattern on the yoke. So it's a top-down sweater held with a strand of fingering and a strand of mohair together. And it is just the most lovely, warm, fuzzy, cozy sweater. And yeah, I really enjoyed knitting it. I did it as a test knit. This is some of my own hand-dyed yarn, and I had a bit of a delay getting some of my bare yarn in. So I am working on getting these colors in the shop for y'all. The top color is getting renamed, so I haven't decided on that yet. But then the second like main color, this pink, is Bubblegum Grunge, and then the like lavender silver at the bottom is Moonbeam. So yeah, if you want kind of more in-depth details, I would definitely suggest popping back to my previous video where I kind of run through all of the details and my experiences and some things that I ran into with this test knit. But I can definitely recommend this pattern. I really enjoyed knitting it. It's a very clever design, and these stitches are just gorgeous. I think you guys would really enjoy knitting this. So yeah, this is the only FO that I have for this week, but I do have a couple of whips to talk about with y'all. First thing that I'm going to talk about as far as whips is I have been trying to get my Stalactite sweater done. I feel like I've talked about this one like on every episode of the podcast so far, but I am nearing the end. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel for this sweater. So this is the Stalactite sweater by Camille Rosselle. It was in an issue of Lina magazine. And I am making mine out of Croft 29, which is this dark natural brown color. And the accent color is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the Foothills colorway. It's this really pretty kind of grello, like, I think I've got it here. I don't know. It's a really pretty kind of greeny, yellowy, gray color. So if this is your first time tuning in, you may not know about my saga with the stalactites. I believe it's back on episode 4, and I'll leave a link in the description box down below and try to get one on the screen here for you, where I talked about finding out that I was knitting this at a much larger gauge than I needed to be. So I ripped all the way back up to here. At one point I had like half of the body and half of a sleeve done before I realized I had to rip all that out. But the last time y'all saw this on the podcast, I was down where my kitty cat stitch marker is. So I finished the body, and I've gotten almost all of my first sleeve done. I think I have one more stalactite pattern on the sleeve here, and that will be done, and then a second sleeve. Fingers crossed this will be done for the following podcast. We'll see. But yeah, like I said, it's finally cooled down here. Like, you know, we've had a couple of days where it's only been in the 20s or 30s, so I would really love to have this while it is still nice and cold for the next month or so. Fingers crossed. We have been having like daffodils and a couple of the forsythia bushes around here blooming, so I'm like, I'm not ready for spring. I'm a hot-natured person, so I really enjoy any chance that I get to, in the cooler weather, to wear some of my hand knit items. When I finish, I will do another finished object video where I'll go into depth about all of the issues that I encountered with this sweater. So that way I can kind of keep the podcast a little bit snappier and moving along. All right, so the next thing I have been working on are some socks, and I have been working on some vanilla socks. One of my goals that I didn't talk about on my last video is to kind of branch out and do something more than just vanilla socks all the time. There's a few patterns that I've got my eye on, but I kind of fell in love with self-striping yarn last year, so I feel like they look best in vanilla socks, so I've kind of been scratching that itch first. But this is some yarn that I dyed up just to see if I could do self-striping yarn. I am not a self-striping yarn dyer regularly. There are plenty of other people out there who do it much better and have the equipment set up to do that. But again, it was just kind of a little personal challenge to see if I could do it. But I really love how these are working up. If anything, I would have liked maybe slightly larger stripes, but they're kind of perfect. They're in about a 4 or 5 row kind of chunk of each color. And again, I'm doing toe up, magic loop, 2 at a time. I don't know why I fought 2 at a time magic loop socks for so long. Like, this is the only way I can really enjoy doing magic loop though. Like when I get down a little bit further on my sleeve, I will probably switch to deep hands. I prefer deep hands on a sleeve. I do think I have a slightly tighter gauge also with magic loop versus on a smaller circular or deep hands. So yeah, I've just been knitting on these when I want something that I don't really have to think about. I did have one little, like, I don't even know how I did it, one little area where some stitches got messed up. So there's a little bit of a kind of gappy thing happening there, but I feel like I can kind of tug at those and get them a little bit more evened out once they're done. I'm getting close to where I am ready to think about what I want to do for the heel. I have some of this West Yorkshire spinners in a gray colorway picked out to do the heel. I may do another German short row heel. So the last pair that I did with that was my Christmas socks, and I followed a tutorial by Ellie of the Craft House Magic podcast for that. On my Christmas socks, I had forgotten to do the increases before you start doing the short rows. So they are a little bit snug on my instep, but not terrible. So I kind of want to give the German short row heel another shot with, you know, actually doing it the right way. Just to see how it fits for sure. So that's probably what I'll wind up doing with this. It won't mess up the stripe sequencing or anything like that. I also just haven't bothered to find how to do a heel flapping gusset from the toe up way. I do prefer a heel flapping gusset on my top down socks. So that is that. Yeah, so my socks, I'm really looking forward to adding these to my sock drawer. So the next thing that I have been working on, I pulled out of hibernation because I had forgotten that Stephen West of Westknits is actually going to be at Black Mountain Yarn Shop this weekend. And I was like, man, I really need to work on my jigsaw. So I haven't gotten a ton of progress done, but apparently I'm in the middle of a row. But I did pick this back up, and I started this section here of this like coral and blackish gray kind of section. So this is the Jigshawl puzzle, and I think once I'm done with this is section 16, and I think there's 20 or 21 sections altogether on the shawl, and the rest of them are pretty small. This is a fairly large chunk or section that I've been working on right now. So I feel like once I get this one done, if I really kind of concentrate, I could get this shawl done fairly quickly as well. I'm not going to get it done in time for tomorrow to go see Mr. West himself, even though I would love to. I have plenty of other of his patterns to take and wear and socialize with him about. But this section I'm using some Koigu, and this is some Madeline Tosh in the Taffite colorway. I think that's how you say it. And I think that's the right color. It's one of the Semiprecious colors that was a 2017 exclusive colorway for Jimmy Bean's wool. And I have that in the blanket that I'm getting ready to talk with y'all as well about. As far as the jigsaw puzzle, I won't go through every section. I think I have updated my Ravelry page for all of the yarn combinations. I didn't even bring the bag up here with all of my colors just because there's like 10 or 12 different colorways and yarns and things in here. But I really love this. This is going to be my living room couch shawl. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. This is a lovely pattern for using up scraps or kind of, you know, stash busting, using up a couple of different skeins. It's really fun to play with the different yarn combinations because you're holding either 2 strands of fingering or maybe like a DK and a mohair lace together, trying to get about a worsted weight. Yeah, like a worsted to Aran, because I am using size 8 needles with this. So yeah, it's garter stitch everywhere. It's lovely and soft and squishy, and I can't wait to wrap up in that. So finally, I do have my Semiprecious blanket that I've been working on, and I feel like I told you I wasn't going to show you until I was done with the whole blanket, but honestly, this is what I've been reaching for since finishing my Sorrel sweater. And let's see. So this is the current magic cake that I have made up. There's about 2 repeats of each of the 12 colors in this ball right now. I just started a new repeat of all 12 of them. All right, so the last time y'all saw this, I think that I was here, so I've done probably a good like 8 inches on my granny stripe blanket here. So it's getting nice and long. I can actually like cover up with it when like it's covering my feet right now. I can actually cover up with it when I'm working on it, which is really convenient. So yeah, I'm gonna keep on until I use up all of the yarn. I have about 22 to 24 grams of each color left, and I think so that's probably gonna mean like 2, probably more like 3 repeats of each 12 color. I'm doing about 7 or 8 grams per repeat of each color. So again, these are all there were exclusive colors for Jimmy Bean's Wool for 2017, and I will link my Ravelry project page with all of the colors on it. Unfortunately, they were just kind of, you had to buy them while they were out, so I don't think that they are repeatable. I am looking for something to do a border on this with. I was thinking like a cream or a white would be nice to really make these colors pop. Yeah, I think either a cream or maybe like a nice beigey neutral or something would be really pretty. Just something that's not going to compete with these colors, but still also frame it up nicely. So yeah, I'm really excited to get this done, and it will also probably be my new couch snuggling material. So I don't know if I mentioned, but this is the granny stripe blanket. I'm using the pattern from Attic 24. It's really basic, really mindless, really simple. This is about as complicated of crochet that I like to do. All right, so those are my knitting and crochet whips. I do have a spinning project currently, and I talked about on my last episode how I am trying to spin for the Day Thin sweater, which is by Kate Davies, and I really hope I'm saying that name right. And on the last episode, I showed you the skein that I made from the Rollags from Blueburn Fiber. So I started spinning my braid from Spun Right Round, and I believe this is colorway is called Take a Dip. Yes, Take a Dip, and it's 100% merino. This really lovely seafoamy teal blues. It's kind of a gray tone to it as well, but this is the first bobbin that I started spinning. So I split the braid in half. I just found them, weighed it, and found like the midway point and just split it. So this is the half that I have. This is the second half. That will be my second bobbin. And then I've just been trying to spin slowly on this one. I really just wanted to get more consistency. I think I did not have enough twist in my last spin when I was making the singles. I definitely got enough twist and maybe a little bit too much twist when I was plying, but on my singles I feel like I wasn't getting enough twist, and on the roll legs in the previous braid that I had spun, I feel like I was getting a lot of breakage when I would spin. And again, I think it was a twist thing, and I think I was drafting too far apart. So like I said, I've just been going slowly, maybe spinning like 15-20 minutes a day with this, and not even every day, just kind of slowing down and enjoying it and trying to be really intentional and just get as even of a spin as possible. So I have this much left of, it looks like a lot more than it is. I have this left of the first half of the braid, and that'll be my first bobbin, and then I'll spin a second bobbin and just do a traditional 2-ply with these, and then that'll be the second kind of piece that I have for the Dathan. Again, that sweater requires 15 unique colors. I might need to go ahead and buy the pattern and look at it and see how important it is that they're each unique. I will be able to get some striping with like the previous spun that I did, which was kind of a fractal ply, whereas this, I'm not going to get quite as much of a striping effect, but there is going to be some variation just due to the nature of, like, there's light spots and dark spots on this braid, and you know, who knows how they're going to ply up. I'm just going to keep spinning, and I think what I'm just going to do is keep spinning all of these things that kind of work within this family of colors that I have in mind for this sweater, and when I feel like I've had enough, just kind of pull them all together and mix and match and decide what I want to use and what I don't want to use. And yeah, I'm not trying to put too many restrictions on myself with this. It's just kind of a little bit of an experiment. I just wanted to go ahead and spin something for a garment. Finally, I do have a tiny little bit of yarn dyeing that I wanted to talk with you guys about. If you followed me on Vlogmas, you'll know that I got a huge bag of pecans from my mother-in-law. So I cleaned all of the nuts out of the shells, and I was left with this giant grocery bag of shells and husks, and I was like, I bet I can extract some color from them. So I did some searching online. I didn't really find a whole lot about dyeing with pecan husks once they are dried. I did find some information about when they're still green, but mine were definitely brown, and I don't know if they had been like roasted or anything. So yeah, I mainly followed instructions from this book called The Craft of the Dyer. I followed the instructions, I think, for black walnuts. I think I just let them simmer for a few hours and then left them in the pot to cool, maybe for about 24 hours, maybe a little bit longer. And then I strained out, or I scooped out the husks and tried to let it cook down and kind of concentrate the dye liquor or the dye stock, so I could store it in jars until I was ready to use it with yarn. I pulled a jar of that stock out of the fridge, and the first things that I threw into the pot were these 2 skeins of my Tweed base, which has the white neps on it. And it really turned this lovely shade of like kind of a clay pink. I don't know, it was not what I was expecting at all, to get kind of a pinky color. So I was expecting kind of more a golden orangey peachy color based off of kind of the drips that I was making on a paper towel while I was extracting the dye. But this is really, really pretty. It actually reminds me a lot of the color that I got from avocado pits, which I actually had to add baking soda to the avocado pits to get them to turn more pink. They were more kind of this, I don't even know what you would call this, somewhere between a beige and a pink. So I don't remember the exact percentages, but this base does have some cotton in it, which I think accounts for the neps, but also I think there's a strand running through it because it does have a little bit more of a crunchy feel than just my regular sock base, which is what these are. And these are minis, 2 minis that I throw into the pot. I actually threw these in maybe like an hour or 2 after these were already in there. So that is why I kind of got a slightly lighter shade, but I left all 4 of these in the pot at the same time. I let them heat up and then cool down, and I left them in there overnight and pulled them out the next day and started rinsing them. And something really interesting happened when they were cooking. Some like brown, black, sludgy stuff started to come to the surface of the water. And I was like, that's weird. And it did rinse out of the yarn. But then when I pulled out these minis, I noticed, I don't know if y'all can see, there's some like black, brownish gray color staining or dye there. And I kind of thought, well, it could be a few things. It could be this sludge kind of coming out of the dye liquor. It could be acid dye coming off of the zip ties that I reuse. I use reusable zip ties. I wasn't leaning, this was kind of maybe. I've never had dye leach out of these onto skeins before. And the reason that these actually dye is because they're nylon, and the acid dyes will work on nylon or plastic. But anyway, my third suspicion, and I think this is probably what it was, is the pot that I was using, I had previously used to dye some skeins with black acid dye, and I scrubbed all the pots when I was done using them the last time, and I do use a magic eraser to get the dye particles off, and normally that works really well, but I didn't even think about it when I started throwing stuff into the pot this time, but I think there might have been some black dye stuck to the bottom of the pan, so that's kind of where this came from. But again, I'm not entirely sure. I have more of the pecan dye stock dye liquor in the fridge. I am going to thoroughly scrub a different pan or pot and kind of repeat my experiment and see if I get any of this kind of brown gray streaking. There was still color left in the pot after I did these. So I had spun up some Echo View fiber mill, just kind of as this was one of my early spinning experiments, and I decided to throw this in the pot because it was undyed and it's non-superwash. Just as a comparison, here you have superwash with a little bit of cotton, and this got the first dip into the bath. Superwash and nylon, this also has nylon. Superwash and nylon, and then just plain merino wool, non-superwash. Now granted, this went into the pot after these did, but it still is almost a completely different shade of pink than even like just the minis are. This one also did pick up a little bit of the brown gray whatever up here. I honestly, I think it's either the sludge from the pecans or it was dye left on the pot. So yeah, I really just need to do some experimenting and kind of be meticulous the next time I dye these. Now the other factor that I'm just now remembering is I didn't pre-mordant any of these, but I did soak these two in vinegar before I dyed them. I don't believe that I did not soak this in anything. I just threw it straight in. I don't know. I should have taken notes, but I didn't. But I feel like I didn't do anything to this. I literally just took this hank and threw it into the cool pot, and then heated it up. I don't think I heated this one up quite as much either. But honestly, this might be my favorite kind of color of the three of them. They look kind of similar on screen from far away. So yeah, I'm still playing around with these. I do have some alum. I do want to mordant some yarn and see how different those results are. I still have black bean dye. I still have dye from my Christmas cactuses. I collected all the blooms and put them in some water, and I'm actually getting a really pretty shade of pink from those. And I still need to do something with all my avocado pits. So yeah, I just got behind on ordering bare yarn, but it is supposed to be here on Monday, so I plan on doing a lot of dyeing in the next week or two. But I just wanted to share kind of my natural plant-based dyeing experiments with y'all. Maybe just put some information out there for anybody who is interested. One of the things that I did find was that pecans might not make the most color fast. It's kind of like in the medium range of color fastness. So I haven't really noticed any fading on these so far, but again, they were just done a few weeks ago. If you guys have any questions, please drop them in the comment box down below. If you have any experience dyeing with any of these things, let me know, or know of any resources. I will say, of all of the kind of natural plant-based dyeing and even the acid dyeing, the pecan dye smelled delicious. Everything else smells really kind of gross while you're doing it, but the pecans just, it smelled like buttered pecan ice cream in my kitchen. I'm gonna go ahead and do a kind of a short acquisition segment. I told y'all on the last episode that I had done another swap around Christmas time. This was within a Facebook group that I'm a part of, and that is the Exquisite Yarn and Fiber Community, I think. It's EYFC. But they do swaps every quarter, and so I got matched with someone and I sent a lovely package to them, and then I got this lovely package in the mail. So I'll just kind of run through some of the things that I got sent. So this was sent to me by a lovely lady named Catherine, and everything came in this tote from French Field Supply, and it says, "Bury me with," I'm reading it backwards, "Bury me with yarn and needles, and I shall rest in peace." So that is very true. And I will probably be taking this on my next festival trip for shopping. So I'll start with the yarn. She sent me this lovely set of Blue Sky Fibers Woolstok minis, and these are worsted weight minis. So I think these would make a really pretty color work hat or a set of mittens, and it's super squishy and soft. But I really love these colors. So yeah, I haven't decided what I'm gonna make with these yet, but I think they do need to be something color work, kind of traditional, maybe like a hat, or yeah, I definitely think a hat. And then she also sent me these two lovely scenes of Round Mountain Fibers. And this is in the colorway Succulents. And I believe I've heard of this dyer. I think I watched a Christy Glass video with her, and her yarn is only available in Vermont or Connecticut? Vermont. Hand-dyed in Vermont. And I believe everything she dyes is kind of botanical or nature-based. She dyes a lot of kind of like bugs and insect kind of inspired colorways also, but I really love this kind of speckly, variegated colorway, and it's got nice pinks and blues. It does look like a pot of succulents, which I can keep most plants alive. I have some plants that are at least 10 to 15 years old, but I cannot keep a succulent alive to save my life. Yeah, I don't know what this is gonna be either yet, but it's really gorgeous yarn. It might have to be a shawl or something, I'm thinking. That would make a really pretty shawl. So she also sent me a bunch of pins, like a ton of pins. This one is from Spin Cycle, and it says Death Before Acrylic, which is just hilarious. Maker from Shelli Can. Got me a little avocado from Shelli Can. Slytherin, because apparently I'm a Slytherin. According to all of the quizzes, I'm a Slytherin, even though I identify more as a Ravenclaw personally. I don't know, maybe I'm both. This one's cute, it's a little cheeseburger. This is probably my favorite. Literally dying. Literally. A little bag from her trip to Rhinebeck. She sent me a Coast Guard t-shirt because she was formerly in the Coast Guard herself. I need to wash that so I can use it. I got a little Vermont needle gauge minder. And yes, this is from Katrinkles. Some stitch markers. How cute are they? I need to throw these in one of my bags. Cute little card. And she also sent me some hand lotion bars, which I absolutely love. I keep some in every project bag and in my pocketbook, so I love having these to throw on my hands. My skin has been really dry lately, especially this winter. The other things that she sent that I don't have up here are actually 2 mugs. Sent me a Ravenclaw mug, so she got my note about my conflicting Harry Potter houses, and then this lovely hand-thrown pottery mug with the sheep on it, and it is just the cutest thing ever. So a big thank you to Catherine. I loved my package. It was so much fun to open. She was so generous. She also sent Jason a gift. He got a box of an assortment of Reese's. So it had like 30 candy bars in one box, which was crazy. Reese's are his favorite. And she also sent the cat some treats. So that was very nice and very sweet of her. So a big thank you. So as far as any kind of reading, I haven't really been reading a whole lot. I did watch the entire season of Sanditon. I donate money to PBS every month, and in exchange I get access to their streaming service. And if you do have that access, you can stream the whole season. I believe only up to episode 3 has currently aired. I'm a big Jane Austen fan. I love a good period drama. I have thoughts about this series, and I know it's already aired in its entirety in the UK, but since it hasn't finished airing here in the US, I will kind of wait until more people have seen the whole thing, so I don't like ruin it for anybody, even though spoilers are out there. But I was so mad when I finished that. That's all I'm gonna say. It did not feel like very Jane Austen to me at the end. Like, I feel like because it's based off of an unfinished work by Jane Austen, I mean, yes, they had creative license to kind of make things up and end it how they wanted to, but it felt like once they ran out of original content, it just really went off to left field. The acting is great, the casting is great, the costuming and all of that is, you know, totally right up my alley. I enjoyed that, but I don't know. There were some plot lines that I could not get past. But yeah, I watched that, and then I noticed they also had a new version of Howard's End available for streaming on the PBS Passport. And I know that is also based off of a novel, and I was like, well, I haven't watched the older version, so I decided to download the audiobook, and I want to listen to the audiobook before I watch the miniseries just to see. I'm a fan of usually reading the book before I watch a series. So we'll see how that is. I maybe got like 20 or 30 minutes into the audiobook when I was washing dishes the other day. I don't know. It didn't suck me in right away, but I'm not giving up or anything by any means. The only other show that I feel like I binged, I binged all of the 2 seasons of Killing Eve when I was knitting on my Sorrel sweater. So I actually really enjoyed that. It is a little kind of over the top and ridiculous at times. I don't know, I appreciate a good dark comedy. All right, so I think that's everything. Tomorrow, which is Saturday, I am going to be headed up to Black Mountain Yarn Shop. I'm gonna go see Westknits, and actually Lola Bean, Adela of Lola Bean, will be having a trunk show there as well. Hopefully it won't be raining tomorrow, but I am going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you guys so much for joining me again. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already subscribed, you should go ahead and do that so you don't miss any more or miss any of my new videos. So I will see you guys again shortly. I hope that you have happy knitting, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.